The following program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit absoluteloans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to The Money Hour on 570 KVI, the Sunday, March 2nd show. I am your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. Thank you for taking time to talk money. I am here every Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on 570 KVI. It's a great day to talk money, and that is why I'm here with you today. And it's everything that my show is around on how to make money, save money, and ultimately be smart with your finances so you can make better financial decisions to build a better quality of life for yourself and for your family. And my lineup in studio today, first-time guest, Tyler Freed with Windermere Real Estate. Today I'm going to talk with Tyler on how he has built such a successful real estate practice. As a buyer or a seller, if you're listening and you're thinking of getting into the real estate market, knowing what makes a successful realtor will ensure a successful result for you as well. And second guest in studio, regular contributor for all my regular listeners. He is our CPA guy for my listeners as well as my personal CPA, and takes care of all my taxes to make sure that my husband and I make as much as we can back from the government and pay as a little amount to them as possible. Greg Nunn Principal for Gregory S Nunn Company. And he is going to be talking about today the Affordable Care Act and how to learn how healthcare laws affect you and your taxes. And last guest in studio, Legg-Cadigan, also with Windermere Real Estate. New construction is on the rise and in high demand. Today we're going to discuss about new construction trends, the opportunity for your next real estate purchase if you're thinking of new construction. Great information on my show, as always, with fantastic guests in studio today. For more information on any topics discussed, please call into the show at 1-888-987-0570. Again, it's 1-888-987-0570. You can also make comments online at themoneyhour.com. And let's go ahead and start out with the show. As usual, a little money chat. And last week, if you guys are listening to my show, I talked a little bit about credit matters and credit tips. And I said I was going to bring it back in for a second segment on credit. And so I'm going to do that with you today. Your credit does matter. And I want to share some tips that can really help you. And sometimes it can help you get your loan or not. It can help you get your job or not, because there's a lot of things that almost everything is affected on credit score based on qualifications and actually how much money it's going to cost you. So I think it's an important topic. Now, your credit scores will vary from 300 to the high 850, and your FICO score, which is used for, at least for mortgage purposes. On other types of debt, they may be pulling from one credit bureau, but for mortgage, they're going to look at all three, and they're going to use what's called your FICO score, and that's the middle from the three bureaus. So you have Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. A 760 or higher is considered an excellent FICO score, and 660 or lower is considered poor. Now, I want to go through the components of the credit scoring to start out today. So the past delinquents is one category of the one component for credit scoring, and it represents 35% of your credit score. Utilization ratio, I'll talk a little bit about that. That represents 30% of your overall credit score. Average age of credit represents 15%. You want to make sure that 2 years is kind of your established credit lines. And then mix of credit represents 10%. And your inquiries represents the last 10%. So I want to talk about collections, and this is a credit tip for you, because if you have a collection account or a collection item that's open, collections can have dramatic effect on your credit scores depending on how far back it was. But if you have an open collection and you're thinking about getting a loan, you might might be thinking to pay that collection off. And I'm going to tell you not to pay it off. I'm going to tell you that you need to consult with your mortgage consultant first before paying it off. And the reason why is because you could find that once you pay off that collection account, now remember when I went through the components of what affects your credit score, one of those components was average age of credit. And it represents 15% of your credit score. Now, collection, yes, being bad or not favorable, you would think common sense would be to eliminate and pay it off. Well, here's what happens when you pay off the collection account. It will still be there. The collection's going to remain there until it falls off your report, regardless if it's an opened collection account or a closed and paid off collection account. But here's what happens if it's open right now and you pay it off and close it. The average age of credit started from when that collection was open, and it automatically, that age of credit goes away. So especially if collections are over 2 years old. Now, I'm not saying not to pay these off because you're going to have to pay them off, and you want to pay them off. You want to get these things cleared up and resolved. But if you're in the middle of applying for a mortgage and a closing on a mortgage, what you want is you want to make sure that that collection is going to be paid at closing, so that it's not going to affect any type of rescoring to the negative, because that could ultimately, you could be approved for a mortgage and then pay off that collection, go find a house and get an offer accepted, and your credit report gets updated, and it's had enough time for that to be recognized, and the age of credit is affected, and you can't go back and fix that, and now your credit score is in a position that you no longer approve for that home. Really, really bad situation to get into. So there's a myth and a tip to follow. Paying off loans early is better than making payments is another myth. Now, financially, not owing money, yes, obviously that's better because you're going to save on the cost of interest. But your goal is to build your credit score. So you want to owe something because it affects another component, which is the average age of credit, representing another 15%. And your score and the possibility of that score is also, there's another component that I talked about, which was the mix of credit. The mix of credit represents another 10%. So we have 15% on the average age of credit and a 10%, another 10% for the mix of credit. So by not utilizing those cards, then you're not having the ability to build up the age of credit and the mix of credit and using that. So the ideal situation is to be using your revolving credit cards and just pay them off every month so you don't owe interest. I would encourage to do that, and I do it with everything. I don't pay cash for anything. I don't use my debit account for anything, and I don't pay interest on any of my credit cards because I pay it off before interest is due. And I also collect the miles and the benefits that we have for utilizing the credit card. So just another tip in maximizing your money as well as maximizing and improving your credit score. Now, you want to make sure, as long as that ratio does not exceed 30%. So any revolving, very few people know the ratio, and that's the first step to understand that there's a debt to credit utilization ratio component. Now, this represents 30% of your credit score, so that's huge. So some people know that, but they think that it actually is based on individual revolving cards themselves. It's not. It's your overall revolving debt that you owe versus what you have available to you. You never want that ratio to exceed 30% of the available credit to you. So take all your revolving credit and add up how much you have available to you from all those creditors, and then make sure that at no period of time that you owe more than 30% of the revolving that's available to you. So if you do and you can't pay those off, I understand that, but call the credit cards and have the companies increase it. You never ever want to get that over 50%. That's going to be really, really negative to your credit score. I will bring credit tips and myths back in Money Chat next Sunday, so make sure you tune in. Coming up next on the Money Hour, in studio, we have Tyler Freed, Windermere Real Estate. What does success look like in his real estate practice? If you're investing in real estate, you do not want to miss the segment. Work with the best, ultimately get the best results. Coming up next again right here on 570 KVI after the short break.
Are you losing sleep because of anxiety with the IRS? Gregory Nunn, a certified tax resolution specialist and certified public accountant, and his team are the rescue squad for troubled taxpayers. A client recently wrote, Greg's team is extremely organized and efficient. Greg has a wide range of tax understanding and was able to manage and mitigate an IRS audit with a settlement for pennies on the dollar. If you're looking for a well-rounded and honest accountant, Greg is your man. Learn more at GregNunnCPA.com. All tax problems are unique and the outcome of each case can be very different.
Are you behind on your mortgage payments and unsure about the road ahead? Magnum Law Group helps families just like yours navigate through the foreclosure avoidance process. Are you underwater on your home and unsure what to do? Magnum Law Group will help you understand your options. Are you facing foreclosure and need to stop a trustee sale? Magnum Law Group has success in doing this and may be able to help you too. If you're tired of dealing with the banks and getting turned down for loan modification, Magnum Law Group will take on the banks for you and lead you through the process for the best possible outcome. They lead the competition with superior knowledge and expertise.
This is Craig from Magnum. You can reach us at 425-605-6393 or at www.magnumlawgroup.com. See you at the next seminar.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 570 KBI. Each week, I share expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events and our local economy that can affect your money. In studio right now, Tyler Freed, Windermere Real Estate. Everything real estate and what has made him so successful in his real estate practice. Tyler has been in real estate for the last 10 years, and he grew up around real estate with his dad being in business for the past 30 years. Tyler is currently the branch manager at the Bonnie Lake office. In 2011, he partnered up with Windermere Relocation, where he helps employees relocate in and out of the Puget Sound area. In 2012, Tyler became a Zillow Premier Agent, specializing on the east side, right where I'm at. Now he works with Zillow on their foreclosure program, helping buyers understand how distressed inventory works and how to buy real estate-owned properties and short sales. I am so excited to have you here, Tyler. I'm going to keep a little secret until we get a little further in this segment, but thank you so much for joining me in studio and your wealth of information, sharing it with my listeners.
Thanks for having me, Tina. Great show you got here.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and just start out. I know that you have had huge success in a lot of areas in your real estate practice, and I want to start out with Brokers Open. And first of all, explain what a Broker Open is to my listeners, as well as share some tips there.
Definitely. You have to have a broker's open when you list a property. You want to have the agents that are selling homes in the area get through the home. So you have to entice them by doing different things, and we do some really fun stuff to get agents through there. So they're very vital to helping get the agents out there that are really selling the homes to tour the home.
Okay, Taylor, and I know that there are some really special things, and you create some excitement and contests. You have to maximize the success, and ultimately what you're doing in maximizing the success, you're maximizing the success of selling that property. So if you're listening right now and you need a good agent to represent on the listing side, this is what it takes. It takes creativity to maximize the dollars. And you may be thinking, well, gosh, people that are listing your homes, they're getting them sold in no time. Yeah, maybe, but don't you want to make sure that you're maximizing the price and the opportunity in this market? So I would love for you to share, Tyler, your cash balloon pops and guess the final sales price contest that you have.
Yeah, so we try to make it fun, try and get as many people through there. So what we've had luck with is doing a cash balloon pop. So I'll fill up 20 to 30 balloons and put various, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, $1 bills in there, and have them tour the home, have some food for them there, and then just get some pricing feedback from them, any suggestions they have to help the home sell better, and they're touring the home, and then they pop the balloons, and the people that win the $20 bills are screaming and hooting and hollering, and the $1 ones don't have the same effect, but it gets people there excited, so it's pretty fun. And
that's awesome. And I would imagine with all of the the online and advertising that you've got these things that you're advertising these contests, so it does make it fun. I mean, if you're going to go out and look at houses, it would be a lot fun to actually go out and look at ones where there's a little action happening and having some fun and some possible money that they can win.
Yeah, it's good to offer something. We also do guess the sales price. I saw this on $1 Million Listing years ago, and we have a big trifold board where we have people pin up their business cards and guess what the final sales price is going to be. And whoever's the closest to that, we send them a $100 Visa card. So that's been pretty effective too.
That is awesome. Now, I also have to say congratulations, because you've got an upcoming appearance on HGTV for Sales of Two Cities. And it's exciting because for this appearance in this show, they're doing a comparison with you for Seattle versus our national numbers. Can you share what's going to happen on this show? What's it all about?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting show. There's a lot of house hunter shows out there and kind of similar philosophy, except it took buyers that I had sold a house up to in Queen Anne and showed what you could get over here for $400,000. And then there's also a realtor in Nashville that did the same thing. So you could kind of compare their market to our market. So it was fun to get out there and it's so much filming for such little time, but it was pretty cool to show the difference between, we looked at a place in West Seattle, townhouse in Queen Anne, and then a condo in Eastlake. So what
is the time for this? Is it 30 minutes or the show?
It actually, so it'll actually be about 12 to 15 minutes of actual airtime, but it was 3 days of filming. So
that is so awesome.
Yeah.
So also, just like me, I mean, you're passionate about every area regarding your real estate, but you really maximize in being able to take care of all types of home buyers, and having a passion with first-time home buyers. I'm certified through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, as well as you are, and it's a select group of people in our area that go through the certification and have that to where they can offer some of these amazing programs through the commission. What are you seeing? And I'd like to hear what you're using with your clients in comparison to what my clients are using as well on some of their programs.
Well, this home buying seminar, it's just so good because you go over everything. You're talking about foreclosure prevention. You're explaining the process and letting them know, what to expect. The people that go there are usually taking advantage of the Home Advantage program, which is up to 4% of your down payment. You have to have maximum income of $97,000 or less are the people that can qualify for it. And we've been partnering that up with some FHA loans, with some private PMI, some split PMI. The interest rate's a little bit higher, but what we're seeing is the monthly payments are a lot lower than if someone was to go with FHA, and plus they're getting their down payment paid for.
Yeah, it is an awesome program. There's no there is one income limit. It can really help as well if you're over that income limit. It's the only program, down payment assistance, that the commission has ever had where you've got the ability to leave off a borrower if you don't need their income, and it's not included. So it's an amazing program. And you can't use these programs unless you actually attend one of the seminars that you and I are teaching, because it has to be certified through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. And also they've got their MCC, the tax credit. Are you seeing that your buyers are taking advantage of that 20% tax credit?
We're not seeing that as much. I know it's a lot of people are talking about. I mean, another good thing with Home Advantage is you don't have to be a first-time buyer, and a lot of people think these things are just for first-time home buyers. So it's been very successful so far. Yeah, and it's awesome. The MCC you can actually use with the Home Advantage too, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a great way to save some money. So let's also talk about you in the bio. You'd mentioned that you're Premier Zillow Realtor. So what does that mean, and how is that helping in your business? Well, last year around this time, they took 5 real estate agents in the state of Washington, and they did this beta foreclosure test. And any property that wasn't on the market, but they had public record of it being foreclosed on by a bank, they would look online, and a big shot of my mug would pop up on there, and they'd call, or I'd reach out to them and just kind of explain the process of the difference between an REO property and a short sale property. That's awesome. And so it's been really helpful for your business, as well as for those clients that are going there to dial in and find an expert in that arena. Yeah, there's just so little inventory. I'm sure everyone's been talking about for the last 2 years, but there's so many people that are looking at these other routes, and it's been really effective. So let's also talk about, we mentioned first-time home buyers. You also put a specific marketing strategy for jumbo or high-end buyers, and you do some things being on the front of Windermere magazine. So talk about that a little. Yeah, it's actually at the front page of windermere.com. So when I have some high-end listings, I can actually advertise on the front page. So that's another big benefit to the sellers out there that have properties that need the extra marketing. I don't think any other firm can really offer the same amount of exposure by having it on the actual Windermere.com front page.
Yeah, and when you're getting into a jumbo market and you're getting into the $2 million, $3 million properties, it's a little different environment as far as the multiple offers because it's not as high as demand. So any benefit and advantage that you have to market those homes for those sellers is pretty huge.
Exactly.
And I know that you also, Tyler, put a lot of focus on your community, your activities that you have with your community, really being able to educate what's happening in the real estate market and sharing the expertise and the wealth of information that you have. Talk about a couple things that you're doing.
Well, I think it's really important to give back to the community. We're in a position where we can do really well, and giving it back to the community and volunteering our time is so important. I'm an assistant coach for Rainier Junior Rugby program, and it's 9 different high schools down kind of in the south end that we're coaching and playing across the state, so that's really fun. We do some other fun stuff at Enumclaw High School. We help out with the homecoming orientation and do some voting and everything there. That's a really fun event. So just things like that, just giving back time and volunteering.
Awesome. And I also have to say that as well as me, you host your own radio show too. So I got to put a plug in for your show. It is on 1180 AM, so it's not 570 KVI AM, but that's okay because it's on Saturdays, different time than my show, The Money Hour. But it's really great to see someone else that's putting time and energy into educating our community. So talk a little bit about the show and what you're doing. I know the name of the show is Community Real Estate Talk Show, right?
Yeah, so the whole goal is to try and connect the community members, people that are doing projects in the area. I'm a WSU Coug alumni, so I have a lot of small business owners come on the show and talk about their companies and their visions for the companies, and then we have some real estate professionals come in there and talk. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for how long, Tyler?
This weekend will be the 6th episode, so it's 1 to 2 p.m. on Saturdays, and on Sunday you can listen to the show.
And a website that they can go to? Or?
Yeah, it's clay1180am.com.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And let's talk about most people listening in any type of business, you know that you have to have a good team surrounding you, and you're only as good as the team that actually supports you. But I think what a lot of consumers may not realize until they get involved in the transaction is as important to make sure that your external team, so this would be your lending partner, your escrow partner, your title partner, that you've really built a great, strong team that understands how you work, because you're really the one that's kind of positioning everything to make sure that it's running smoothly. Can you share some of your advice on that with my listeners?
Yeah, I just think it's really important. We always talk about if there was a perfect order, it would be future buyers go and talk to a loan officer, and then they get with the real estate agent and then start the process. Kind of back to the philosophy, don't go shopping until you know how much money you have in your wallet, right?
Yep.
I think it's very important to have a team, and so much stuff goes wrong. There was a stat last year that 50% of homes that made it into escrow actually didn't close. So a lot of that can be prevented by having a really good, strong file and a good loan officer to work with. And then title and escrow is just really important. I really like using Next Title. They have mobile signers so they can sign people inside of their homes and stuff like that. Just really smooths up the process.
Yeah, and that's really convenient, because if escrow, any of you that have gone through the home buying process, when you actually know when your signing date is going to be, is not going to happen until the very end of the closing timeline. So a lot of times it's during business hours. So if you've got a company that can do mobile and go out to you, is awesome. And on the lending side, I didn't know that stat. That is unbelievable. So basically what Tyler just said, that you're in contract. I mean, you have an offer accepted between you and the seller, or as a seller, you and the buyer, and you're in the middle of the closing timeline, which means it's going to be closing in probably about 30 days. And 50% of them strategically don't make it to the end. If that doesn't give you some urgency to make sure that you're really going and working with quality people, and that's why I'm so excited about to do the show, because everybody I have sitting in here in studio, they are strategically handpicked because they are the best experts in our local market that can really help you through that process. And what a nightmare to fall into that statistic of 50% that the sale does not get completed.
Yeah, you just have to have it all goes back to being organized and ready for stuff that's going to come up. And a lot of these agents do a good job of getting ready for that and getting it on to closing.
So, Tyler, I got a minute before I got to take us to break. Any other lasting advice that you want to leave with my listeners?
Well, a big change for me in my life that really took off, helped my business take off, is if you want to increase your income, I say have a kid. It really puts everything into perspective. It makes you more efficient with your time and takes you to the next level.
That is awesome. And I totally agree, Tyler. Whenever you have, it's always what is your why? The why has to be big enough that you're going to fight and do everything that you can to reach your great dream. And part of our dream is to financially be successful so that we can offer more to our children.
Perfect.
Tyler, thank you so much for coming in. It was such a pleasure.
Yes.
A little bit it feels different here actually talking and asking questions to a host of his own show. So that was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tina.
Okay, coming up next on the Money Hour, the Affordable Care Act represents the most significant law or overhaul of our U.S. healthcare system since the passage of Medicare and Medicaid in 1965. How will this affect your taxes? In studio, Greg Nunn, Principal from Gregory S Nunn Company, right after this short break on 570 KVI.
Tyler Freed works with Windermere Real Estate and has been in the business for the last 10 years. He partners up with Windermere Relocation to help buyers and sellers move in and out of the great Puget Sound area. Tyler also specializes in foreclosures on Zillow, helping buyers understand the pros and cons of buying a short sale or foreclosed home. If you're looking for someone to list your home and get you maximum exposure and money, reach out to Tyler Freed. His new age online marketing gets your home in front of more buyers to bring in offers quickly. Visit tylerfreed.com for more information or call 206-963-0424 to learn more.
Are you behind on your mortgage payments and unsure about the road ahead? Magnum Law Group helps families just like yours navigate through the foreclosure avoidance process. Are you underwater on your home and unsure what to do? Magnum Law Group will help you understand your options. Are you facing foreclosure and need to stop a trustee sale? Magnum Law Group has success in doing this and may be able to help you too. If you're tired of dealing with the banks and getting turned down for loan modification, Magnum Law Group will take on the banks for you and lead you through the process for the best possible outcome. They lead the competition with superior knowledge and expertise.
This is Craig from Magnum. You can reach us at 425-605-6393 or at www.magnumlawgroup.com. See you at the next seminar.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 570 KBI. I bring in studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything money. I'm here to help you in today's economy. Right now in studio, regular contributor, and those of you that are regular listeners to my show know this is my own personal CPA, Greg Nunn, Principal for Gregory S Nunn Company. Affordable Care Act signed into law on March 23rd, 2010. And what does this mean to you? What does it mean to your taxes? Greg, thank you again for coming in once again in studio.
Absolutely.
I know you're a busy guy over there, especially with all these changes.
I am a busy guy.
And here's what Greg is all about. He's been practicing for nearly 30 years. He is also a certified tax resolution specialist, the only one in the greater Seattle area. His practice is located in Redmond, Washington, with a focus on practice being tax return preparation, tax planning, and tax problem resolution. Greg has recently awarded top practitioner by the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers. That's why you're my guy.
Hey, glad to be here with you.
So, Greg, let's just go ahead and start right out. What is the individual mandate?
Yeah, the Affordable Care Act, or the ACA, or Obamacare, all the same thing. You probably hear it in all kinds of different formats. Mm-hmm. But the individual mandate indicates that all people must have medical insurance coverage. And most of those people will get that medical insurance coverage, I'm talking about individuals now, through one of the state insurance exchanges or the federal exchange. But keep in mind that not all insurance companies are on that exchange. So if you have an insurance company that you really like, say like Regents in our area, they're not on any of the exchanges. Wow. So you just contact them directly.
Okay. So what have I heard of? I've heard of this thing about the higher Medicaid taxes. What is this, Greg? Yeah,
the Medicare taxes are going up for people that, for singles, if they make over $200,000, and for married people over $250,000, it's about a 2% tax. And so anything above that earnings level, you're going to pay a little bit more to the piper.
Okay. And what about the medical itemized deductions, and how are these impacted?
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at each one of these little tweaks, this being a good example of it.
And there's a lot of them.
And there's a lot of them. And the itemized deductions for medical costs used to be anything above 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. They're raising it to 10%, except for those that are already 65 and older, and there's a phase-in period. But what they're doing is each one of these things tweaks stuff so that either you're going to be paying more likely more in premiums or more in taxes because you don't get all the tax benefits you used to have, or there's additional taxes on your income. So it's a big, big deal.
And there are some mistakes. I mean, this is why strategically you need to find out what these are. My listeners, if you don't have a CPA, pick up the phone, give my show a call, 1-888-987-0570. And you really need to get educated on what these things are because you don't want to make the wrong mistake and ultimately end up paying more taxes. Right, Greg?
That's correct. And this thing is a nightmare.
And so if I have a health savings account or HAS or an Arch MSA, what are the changes happening there?
Yeah, on these accounts here, the health savings account, sometimes on high deductible plans, it's attached on those what's called health savings account. So you can put aside money to utilize for medical expenses, and same with the Archer MSA. Now, it used to be that you could utilize those monies that you put in that savings account, health savings account. It's kind of like a IRA for healthcare. Yep. And you could use that to pay for over-the-counter medications. Gone. That's not available anymore. In addition to that, there used to be it was a 10% penalty if you did an early withdrawal on a health savings account, 15 on a MSA. Now it's 20%.
Okay, so they've increased.
So they've increased that penalty. If you need the money, sometimes we get strapped.
Sure.
And we have to take that money out, and then boom, 20% penalty. Don't ask me what the logic is in that.
Yeah. So, Greg, let's talk about the health spending arrangement, or FSA, because there are probably a lot of listeners that have this through their employer, and I think it's excellent. But I've heard that there's actually a limitation as far as what you can put into this account now. Is that correct?
That's correct. Which
is a drag because that's money that you don't get taxed on.
That's right. And in employers, this was a great option for employees, and just huge. And in essence, there really wasn't much of a limit on these flexible spending accounts, but most of them had like a $5,000 limit. Well, with the Affordable Care Act, it is now only you can put away $2,500.
Wow.
So if you could defer, that is, you could put $5,000 into it, and you wouldn't pay tax on that $5,000. Yep. So now it's only $2,500. So keep in mind that now you pay tax on that spread of $2,500 that you used to be able to not have tax paid on. So
yeah, and it was a great. If you knew your kids, I don't know how much cost for braces now, but I mean, if you knew your kids were going to have braces or things that were coming up, you could stock it in there, then you just kept building it up. There was no time frame of when you could actually use it, which is still the case, right?
Hope so. It depends on the plan.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about tax credit for health insurance that I'm hearing about.
Tax credits. Okay. There's actually two different kinds of tax credits.
Give me some good news, Greg.
A little bit of background. There's tax credits that reduce your tax, and then there's what are called refundable tax credits. Refundable tax credits are like real money. This is considered a refundable tax credit, meaning if you qualify for the credit, the government will send you that money or reduce the amount of tax you may owe. It's all based upon poverty level. Typically in our area, it kind of phases out at 4 times the poverty level. So if you make single $40,000, you won't get any credit. Okay. If you're a family of 4, it phases out at around $104,000. So it's not going to be a whole large section of our population that qualifies for this credit.
Okay.
The sad thing is that those that do qualify for that credit probably don't even know how to fill out the tax form to get the credit. Because
they're not spending the money to have the expert advice that they need to.
Because they can't afford it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about some more obscure changes.
The obscurities.
You make me so nervous when you chuckle over there.
I know. I don't want to sound real political here, but, good old Nancy Pelosi, pass the law and then we'll find out what's in it. Well, that's what's happening. And some of those things are a tax like on tanning salons, a tax on medical devices.
Really? Wow.
Why
good
would
thing
you
I
tax
went to.
medical? I don't know.
Good thing I got my tanning done for Tahiti.
That's right. It's cheaper to go to Tahiti. And then there's a new thing on having to list calories for pizza places. You might have heard that in the news recently. If they have so many outlets and something like that. It's just all these little dings of regulations that drive small business owners nuts.
Yeah. Boy, and I would hate to be the small business owner that are actually going to run the tanning salons and the pizza. Yeah.
They probably don't even know about it.
So, Greg, what are your clients experiencing from the ACA with premiums, insurance coverage, and plans that are available?
What I am seeing for those clients that are unable to qualify for any of the tax credit is what we're hearing on the news. Either their premiums are higher or their deductibles are higher or both. Mm-hmm. And so, in essence, what's happening is the insurance is costing more, you're getting less tax deductions and paying more tax, or you're being assessed more tax. So this thing is a very, very costly thing for the average taxpayer.
And again, because we only have Greg here for just a segment, which usually is around 15 minutes or so, if you have any questions specific and you're listening today just a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit stressed about the thought of not understanding what's happening and how it's going to affect you, please pick up the phone, call my show 1-888-987-0570. Again, it's 1-888-987-0570. You can always comment on my website at themoneyhour.com. And Greg really has given a lot of advice to my listeners and just so much appreciated. So, Greg, let's talk about how are the rules changing for reimbursing the cost? And you talked about the over-counter medications.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that are going on with that?
No, it's primarily you can only use those health savings accounts for prescriptions that you have from your doctor and that kind of thing. So it's just not as easy and as flexible as it once was. I'd like to go back to the premium thing for a second,
let's
if
go
I
back.
can.
All right.
Got to be really careful. Here's an example. Married couple, mid-50s, making $60,000 a year.
Okay.
Same couple making $63,000 a year.
All right.
Their premium goes up by $6,000 by having their income go up $3,000. So they're actually $3,000 behind.
Wow.
Don't get it. Don't get it.
So what is your advice there, Greg?
Well, it's one of these odd things, and it's almost like a disincentive.
Yeah.
That you're making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, and you're trying to push to that next level.
And why would they not have the higher amount, just like on your income? If you're in a 15% fall into 25, 33, it's just that additional that's going to. Why would they not do that?
Or at least phase it in a little bit better. It's kind of like in the old days, tax bracket creep. That you would be in the next tax bracket making more gross income, but you'd actually be paying more in taxes, so your take-home pay is less. Yeah, that's what's happening with this thing.
Wow.
So you just know that is out there and beware of it.
Yeah, run the numbers and figure out what you need to do to maximize. So, what is a penalty if one of my listeners is just not getting insurance? What's the penalty? What's going to happen, Greg?
Well, the penalties start out really, really low, $95, and then we'll go up to $695. That's for a single person. And then for a family, it can get as high as $2,085. And there's also percentages that are applied to your income that if those are higher, then you get to pay the higher penalty. Now, the IRS, as we know, has an incredible power, and they have incredible power on collection.
Yep.
They don't have that power with these penalties.
Really?
They cannot assess you these penalties and charge you interest penalties and file a levy or a lien or anything like that.
Well, that's good news.
So if a person owes money when they file their tax return and they just pay the tax they owe and not the penalty, then that penalty sits there.
Okay.
That doesn't gain any interest or anything like that. I'm talking about the medical mandate penalty. But if you have a subsequent year where you have an overpayment, then they're just going to take your money and pay that penalty, that medical penalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all about strategizing.
It's all about strategizing, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I mean, come on. If they want to collect this penalty, you know that somewhere down the road they're just going to fold it and roll it right in with all the other penalty statutes.
Yeah, makes total sense. So let's talk about the repercussions that are in place for employers.
You know, with that question, I have a big question mark at the end of that question because this is where this and being grandfathered and that kind of thing, this is where this whole act just, it's fluid. Mm-hmm. You don't know. There's no certainty. The law states one thing, and then somebody decides that we're going to extend the mandate on employers by a year, and then we extend the mandate by 2 years. So it's unfortunate because businesses need the ability to plan for the future.
Yep.
And when you have big question marks, big clouds above the head, and I'm not talking about working in the cloud, I'm talking about actual rain clouds. It's a challenge. I just can't imagine what some of these large employers are going through. Some of them that are 50 to 250 employees. A lot of these companies are just going to bag their group.
Well,
plans.
The mortgage employers are going through some major stuff because they've got they've got the Dodd-Frank Act, they've got Consumer Protection Financial Bureau. I mean, there's just like all of these regulations that are in place, but you can't really understand what they mean. So, yeah, I'm totally with you, Greg. Well, thank you so much for sometimes you bring in some good news. Sometimes you bring in the reality.
I know, I'm sorry.
Well, that's what happens with the tax guy. I mean,
those regulators, they're after us.
I know. Well, Greg, what my show is about is making sure that the listeners are educated and they know how to be prepared and to maximize. Again, pick up the phone, give us a call, 1-888-987-0570, and I'll connect you directly with Greg. Thank you so much, Greg, for coming back into studio. Always love having you.
Love being here.
Coming up next on the Money Hour, whether you're new construction or thinking of resale home in your near future, knowing the difference is important to make the right decision for your next real estate purchase. In studio, Candy Legg-Cadigan with Windermere Real Estate right here on 570 KBI after the short break.
Are you losing sleep because of anxiety with the IRS? Gregory Nunn, a certified tax resolution specialist and certified public accountant, and his team are the rescue squad for troubled taxpayers. A client recently wrote, Greg's team is extremely organized and efficient. Greg has a wide range of tax understanding and was able to manage and mitigate an IRS audit with a settlement for pennies on the dollar. If you're looking for a well-rounded and honest accountant, Greg is your man. Learn more at GregNunnCPA.com. All tax problems are unique and the outcome of each case can be very different.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 570 KBI. I'm dedicated to my listeners, providing you with the tools needed to make informed decisions on all matters regarding your money. In studio right now, Candy Legg-Cadigan with Windermere Real Estate, here to discuss new construction homes, why new construction, or what the difference is between new construction and resale, and some of the benefits. Candy, thank you so much for coming into studio. First-time guest.
Yes,
happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And Candy has lived in the Seattle area her entire life, married with 3 daughters and 6.5 grandchildren. And that means, obviously, that you've got a grandchild on its way, right?
Right.
When's the due date?
Labor Day.
Congratulations. That's awesome. That's a lot of grandbabies.
Yeah.
She has worked for Windermere Real Estate for over 28 years and has represented builders selling new construction homes for over 20 years. Her passion for fulfilling the dream of home ownership got her into real estate business, and she loves looking at homes, which is a good quality if you're going to be selling real estate.
It is.
She's been voted best in customer satisfaction by Seattle Magazine from 2005 all the way through 2013. Quite an achievement. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about new construction. What are some of the benefits, Candy, to purchasing new construction over a real estate resale home?
Well, there can be a lot of benefits. First of all, it's new, so there isn't going to be a lot of maintenance to it initially, although the downside to that is you usually have to put in your own blinds and things that a new house would need, appliances, but those can all be negotiated with the builder, so it doesn't have to be as much money out as you would think on new.
Got it.
But I think buying a home should be more of a lifestyle decision. So if you're thinking about purchasing a new home or a resale home, you have to think about what is this neighborhood going to do for me? So if you are married and you have some children, you might want to think more about new construction, because typically in an older neighborhood, you're going to have a different age groups. People stay in their houses longer. So in the new, it's usually younger families with children. So if that's important, you want the kids playing in the street in those areas, then new construction really fits that well.
Yeah. So what are some of the trends that are happening as far as the styles and the finishes, and what are you seeing are the hot items? Because we all want to be and sell and go within, really new construction is what's happening right now and what's hot.
Back to the 60s.
Really?
Yeah, back to the 60s. A lot of green, a lot of orange, a lot of...
No green and orange carpets, I hope.
Well, no, accent colors,
Got it.
colors,
Okay.
tiles,
Okay.
browns, earth tones always. But the lighting has really changed. A lot of back to the 60s. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's pushed by popular shows on television, or if it's just
Could be.
old is new, new is old,
Yeah.
the whole thing. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. People seem to be getting away from granite and going more to quartz and other materials for countertops and things like that. So it's like dark cabinetry.
Yeah, and dark cabinetry is beautiful, and I like it when they have the dual, the different. So you've got some dark, and then you've got some light
that's
cabinets.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So, Candy, who are some of the builders that you're working with currently today?
Right now, I have one builder. It's Har Homes, formerly Har Family Homes, and they do a lot of construction in Thurston and Pierce County, and they're just coming into King County to build. So I have the King County homes to represent, and we have a little subdivision coming on in Kent right in spring, and they're really beautiful homes on larger lots. The normal lots are about 5,600. These are bigger. Some of them are 8,000 square foot lots.
Wow, and that's awesome, because that's one of the downsides with new construction versus an older resale is they really are trying to maximize that space.
Absolutely. And when you get a new home, they don't negotiate. Builders can't negotiate on price quite as much as with resale, because the land costs are so high. They're fixed.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes total sense. So let's talk about the closing process for those of you that are interested in new construction. Unless you're buying a home that is completed and already built, which is not happening as much in this environment because the market is it's so heavy and so busy. I mean, there's just so much demand, and there's a lot of demand for the new construction arena. So what's happening is you're going in and making an offer before the home is completed. So what is the typical timeline, and how should somebody, what do they need to prepare for?
Well, typically you'll go into a model home, and you'll see varied styles of homes and finishes, and you would go through with your agent or the on-site agent, whichever, because they are totally prepared to answer all your questions. And you will sit down with them, and you'll pick out a lot, and you'll pick out a plan. But, of course, you have to get pre-qualified before you go in. You always have to talk to your lender and know exactly what you can afford, so you go in and you aren't disappointed.
Exactly.
So you can shop within your budget. And they will sit down and show, and typically you'll pick out what you want in that house, and then they will write it up, write up your purchase and sale agreement. They will start the house. They have to get a permit, and that can take up to 30 days. And then the actual construction process is anywhere from 90 days to 6 months, depending on how backed up they are. Some builders right now are backed up almost a year. That's how in demand construction is.
And I always advise my clients, Candy, and I literally just had a couple come into my office last week sometime for a client meeting that were buying new construction, and they were towards the ending process. And I remember initially when I met with them, and this is nothing bad on the builder, and it's just the reality, because trust me, they want to get done on time because they're paying interest to the bank on their money, or on that loan. But the reality of it is, I always say it's a really good idea to just, plan that it's going to be 30 days late. And it seems that it always, from whenever that anticipated time is, it always seems to be, and why is that?
Well, because
things happen, life happens.
But each phase of it's not in the builder's hands always, because each phase of that construction is inspected by county inspectors, and it depends on what they get there. So you're on somebody else's time frame.
Yeah.
You have subcontractors that don't complete in time, or they're busy. They're really in high demand right now. So it's hard to get a good subcontractor to come in and work on your houses.
And it's not really a bad thing as long as you know ahead of time. If you can plan for a worst case scenario, then it's not a surprise and it's not that big of a deal. I mean, what's the difference of waiting, 6 months versus waiting 7 months? You've just got to plan for it and be prepared so you're not expecting something else. Now, another a benefit of new construction are warranties. What are some of the typical warranties that buyers are receiving right now?
Well, under Washington state law, that builder has to warranty that house for 1 full year, 12 months from the time that you close on it. And typically what that is I call it bumper to bumper, where everything's covered. They'll come back. Any major things they will fix right away. Okay. But like houses settle and there's little cracks and little things happen and grout comes away, and they'll come back and fix everything. Mm-hmm. So it's covered for 1 year for that. Yeah. After that, if the builder doesn't buy for you or if you don't get your own additional warranty, your coverage stops. Mm-hmm. Some builders are good about coming back after the fact, but most at that 1 year end, unless you have the 10-year warranty that is purchased by a lot of builders, it's not covered. So it's a good idea sometimes to get those. Yeah, and I remember we bought our new construction home, and when that 1 year came around, there was a lot of little blue tapes, and it was just a little scratch on the wall that maybe I made. I don't know. Yeah. So they came out and they fixed everything. It was awesome. So in the market are builders, and you already said this. I just had it on my list of questions, but let's talk about negotiating, because I think a lot of buyers have a reality of what's happening in the market, or they soon will once they get out there, that this is a rough market for buyers. There's multiple offers going on. There's not a lot of land. There's not a lot of new construction. So there isn't a lot of negotiating. But what if a buyer says, I'm going to try to negotiate on price, terms, closing costs, amenities? What's happening? Well, they can, and they do. Mm-hmm. And I think builders, when they price, I think they've gotten wise to this. They'll pad some of that in, so to speak, in their price up front, because they know people want to ask for certain things. Most people need their closing costs, especially if it's new construction, and we're talking about that young family. They're not going to have a lot of cash. Now, as you know, they have to have, if it's FHA, 3.5% down. Yep. So they factor that in. So most of the time you can get your closing costs paid or close to it. Okay. And maybe a few other things, but that's about it. Okay. So let's talk about contingent. So if we have somebody that's listening right now, they currently own a home and they're looking at building up, and new construction is something appealing for their family, and they don't want to have to put their home on the market right now. They want to go in and make an offer on their new construction home and go contingent, which means the offer is getting accepted without them selling. Now, maybe they will sell, but who knows? Are those contingent offers being looked at? Yes, most builders will take them because of the building process. Okay, because it is the 3 to 6 months. And typically they'll put in a 1-day bump, so that they get a real buyer, so to speak, who comes in, who can close right away, then they'll bump out that contingent buyer. Okay, so you do have to consider that you want to remove, could they go in with the contingent offer and then remove the contingent if they're getting bumped? Right, they run the risk of losing the house. Yeah, okay. So let's talk about your advice for buyers to get a structural inspection. So on new construction, are you advising them to do this? Always. Yes. Always, always, always. So regardless if it's new or not, I mean, new construction is a little different challenge. With a resale, everybody's like, okay, I understand I need to get an inspection because this is a home that's been used by someone else. It's been, there's been wear and tear. But on the new construction side, because of the fact it's new and there's these subcontractors and people in there, that you want to make sure it was actually built correctly. Right. It's really important. I think some people have the false idea that it's new, it's going to be good, it's going to be okay, it's inspected by inspectors. But a lot of things go wrong. They a lot of times they just look, they don't look real close. The inspectors, they've got a lot to do. And anytime when you have humans building anything, there's room for error, and you always get a structural inspection. And I know a lot of inspectors out there, specifically on new construction, they actually come back after a year, just like on the warranty. So it's, you've got the benefit of both of those areas, correct? Yeah. Yes, yeah, it's a pretty awesome deal. Mm-hmm. So if your buyer chooses to purchase upgrades, so they're paying $400,000 for a home and they're getting $20,000 in upgrades,
are you seeing them able to finance that into the actual price of the home?
Yes, the appraisers allow for that.
Yep, and you're not having any challenges in the environment as far as not being able to appraise for that amount.
I haven't had any appraisal problems with that.
Yeah,
not
so
yet.
Okay, so and that's a really great thing to do, and that's why I always talk a lot of times I bring into studio, because my expertise is in mortgage, and that's what I do every day, all day. Understanding what that per 10,000 calculation is, depending on what type of loan you're going with. If you're doing a lower down payment loan on FHA right now, is running about $70 per 10,000. Conventional, you buy out the mortgage insurance, it's running maybe $55 per 10,000. So if it's going to be $50 a month, let's say, and you've got $20,000 in upgrades, maybe it's a less than $100 a month that you're going to pay in your mortgage payment, rather than having to liquidate. Even if you have the money, it may be smarter to finance it in, because the cost of borrowing is so inexpensive still right now.
It is, and cash reserves are so important, especially
Yes.
when you have a new house.
Mm-hmm. So. Now, I didn't write this down to ask you, but I want to bring it up, Candy, on property taxes, because of when you go in and you do new construction. I know people that aren't getting the information from their lender on taxes, and they're surprised. They think that taxes are going to be really low. The reality of it is they're getting land assess only, and then the once the home the development is completed, then the county is going to come and reassess, and your taxes are going to go up pretty substantial compared to what the land assessment. Correct?
Correct.
And what do you see happens with that 12 months, or because usually it can take 12 months or so, with that last 12 months that they were paying land assessment only?
Well, if you have a lender who requires a reserve account,
Mm-hmm.
they'll take that reserve account, and then it's paid for up front.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it. But the taxes on new construction are higher than resale because of the amenities and things, the infrastructure that they have to put in for those subdivisions.
Makes total sense. Candy, thank you so much again for coming into the studio. It was awesome having you in here, and just a wealth of information on new construction, and appreciate your expertise.
Thank you.
And this is your host, Tina Mitchell. I'm signing off for today, and I'm going to miss you guys. I love hanging out here on Sunday, but I will be back next Sunday, same time, right here on 570 KVI at 11 o'clock. And enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank you for taking time to talk with me.
Tyler Freed works with Windermere Real Estate and has been in the business for the last 10 years. He partners up with Windermere Relocation to help buyers and sellers move in and out of the great Puget Sound area. Tyler also specializes in foreclosures on Zillow, helping buyers understand the pros and cons of buying a short sale or foreclosed home. If you're looking for someone to list your home and get you maximum exposure and money, reach out to Tyler Freed. His new age online marketing gets your home in front of more buyers to bring in offers quickly. Visit tylerfreed.com for more information, or call 206-963-0424 to learn more. The preceding program was paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395, is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit absoluteloans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.